Hello, I wanted to do a video real quick just to go over how to look for research articles and peer-reviewed articles. So research is really important in our field, right? It's the question of how do we know what we know? And we know those things in part either because we've experienced them or because someone has done research about these things, right? So if we think back to Freud's psychoanalysis, there wasn't a lot of research happening then, right? Whereas now today, there's a lot of research to show what is most effective, what is the most important factors that result in change happening with our clients. So as a therapist, you always want to be kind of abreast of the research and knowing what's happening in the field, right? And part of that is so that your skills as a therapist don't atrophy and don't, grow old. You want to make sure that those skills are constantly up to date and that you're aware of what is the most recent research out there. So there's a couple of ways to go about this. Peer-reviewed research is important because historically, you know, colleges who do research are the ones who get money, right? Right. They write grants and then, whoever's fulfilling the grant gives them money to do research. So at one point, colleges and researchers were making up fake data because um, the research that gets published is usually research that has results, right? So there's a lot of research that doesn't get published or that ends up not being in some big journal because there just aren't results for that research. And so historically, people would make up numbers and kind of fake it. And so that's where peer review research came in. So if I were to if I were to do some research, say at the college, and then submit that to a journal article, someone else would review it before it got published to make sure that, my numbers are adding up, to make sure that things are making sense, to make sure that I'm not just, making up numbers to be able to get grant money or whatever the money is coming from. The other thing that when we think about research is, and you guys, if you've actually listened to the lectures, probably have gotten a sense of this by now. There are different types of research. And so research that does randomized controlled trials is kind of the gold standard for conducting research articles. And that is because, when you're doing randomized controlled trials, if say I want to know if whether or not CBT is more effective than people who just never get treatment, right? I would want to randomly put people into, say, this is the group who's getting treatment and this is the group who's getting no treatment. And the reason that I want to do that is to make sure that I am not somehow biasing by picking people like, oh, well, these people are, say they're the most depressed. So if we do anything, they're going to get better, even a little bit, right? So that if it's randomized, I, as the researcher, can't somehow weigh in on that or somehow end up positively impacting my results. So randomized controlled trials are the gold standard. That's what you want to look for. Of course, a lot of research doing randomized controlled trials or doing any research that's, very like super in depth takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, depending on how long the research is going on for. It could take 3 or 4 years from the time that they start the research project to the time that it's getting published, or longer, depending on what the research study is. So it can be very time consuming, which means that even though the randomized controlled trials are the gold standard, a lot of people, maybe researchers, don't necessarily use those just because it can be maybe more time consuming or more effort than say if I were to start a research project at the university here, and it's maybe me and one other professor, we probably don't have the resources or time or effort, et cetera, to be able to do a massive research study. So that's why the limitations section is important to know. Okay, well, if I were to do a research project here for 6 months, how many people realistically at a college of this size am I going to get? Probably not a whole lot, right? Probably not enough to meet significance or to show any type of results. So let me just walk you guys through how to look for research articles and what that looks like. So if I share my screen. Okay, so I'm working on a project right now. So if we look at benefits of life coaching, right? So say you guys are doing some research about, what are the benefits of life coaching? I want to know. There's is the first link that pops up. I'm going to click on this. My computer's super slow. I have too much stuff open. All right, so I can read through this, right? Why would I not want to use this in formal writing? Well, one, because this has no research cited itself, right? So who is this person writing? How do I know that they know anything about the topic? How do I know that they're not just making it up or creating something to look good? This has got great pictures and whatnot, but there are no research citations in here. There's not even a name attached to who actually wrote this. So I would not want to use this in any type of formal writing or presentation. Now, if we go to, say, positive psychology, right? So I've cited some positive psychology stuff. Now, this probably, at least there's a name here attached so that I know at least the name of who wrote this. And, as we read through this, you'll notice that this at least has citations, APA 2006, Moore, Jackson, and this other person whose name I will not attempt to say their name, 2016, NEF 2019. So that's good, right? That's good because we know that they're basing their information that they're giving us on work that has actually been done to show, yes, this research has been done. Yes, I know this because, I know that this point is valid and that this is true. This isn't just, me making something up or me saying, well, this is my experience. As if I'm writing a blog post, because my experience is just one person out of billions of people out there. So that might not be everyone else's experience. Whereas research, gets many more voices involved usually. There was one research article that I threw in there for the multicultural class where the research participants, there was only 4 in the research study. Which is why going back to limitations, that's why the limitation section is so important, right? Because 4 people does definitely not represent the whole world. So it's important to pay attention to those things. So this would be, this is probably has more validity to it. Again, though, the issue with this is even if we scroll down here to the bottom, this still doesn't have, an actual references, any actual citations. So, I could copy and paste this and hopefully I'd be able to find it. But, without some kind of citation page, it's often more difficult to actually find the research articles. Now, if we go to the library, you can click on articles here. You can actually pick scholarly peer-reviewed. So I'm going to type in executive coaching, because I'm not interested in life coaching, in military, and see what pops up. I swear I don't have like 1,000 other windows open at all. Okay, so there are some nice things over here on the left-hand side. As you can see, you can click full text if you want to be able to view the text. You can click journal articles. The time frame is important, right? Because especially for both of the classes that I'm teaching, I've asked that you find research from the last 10 years. So you can change the time frame over here so that it actually is within the last 10 years, and you can, obviously change it further back. All right, so here are the actual research articles. So let me click on this first one, and I have to sign in. All right, so a strengths-focused coaching and how that can help military individuals. So when I'm looking for this, I might want to look for like what's an introduction or what's the background say about this. So, okay, literature, here's the background. I might want to know methodology. That's definitely important. What did they actually do for the research study? Um, I haven't really pushed this, but what kind of data was important? What kind of, not only, I have asked you guys, or I've put it in my research when I'm talking at the end of each presentation about what kind of data was collected. I usually talk about that. I don't talk about what kind of data analysis they did. So that's what type of statistics they ran. And that is because I am terrible at math and I did not go into the psychology career field to figure out math stuff. But that is important. If you go to a master's program, you're going to have to take a statistics class or a doctorate program, and you're going to have to take a research methodology class. So those things are important. And then, it talks about like, hey, here's the conclusion or here's the discussion. So, and then what kind of journal was this in? So this was in the International Journal of Evidence-Based Coaching and Mentoring. Okay, that's probably a legit journal, right? That's not just somebody's random blog post. So this is actually, a journal that you would want to use or could use in one of the, articles or one of the things that you've had to do for the semester. So this is things to look for in terms of doing research, in terms of what to look for. Let's see, let me go back to the home. So you can also click on, so that's just one way to do it. You can also click on library databases, and where you should honestly start is EBSCO, just because EBSCO has so many research articles available. So you can go to ebook or e-collection. I will be honest with you, I don't usually use EBSCO. First, at least starting out, I will, depending on how in-depth the research is, I will get to EBSCO. So this is pretty nice, right? This is a book collection, but you get where I'm going with this. And honestly, this looks the same as, so this is just another way to get there, but this looks the exact same as this does here where we were at, right? And so you can type in all kinds of stuff here. Let's see, let me go back to articles. So I typed in executive coaching in military. I didn't type scholarly peer review, but that's okay. Now, if I want to change so the search terms that you put in are obviously important as well, right? So I could get rid of all of this and type in, if I just wanted to search executive coaching and military and see if that comes up. So not searching both of those terms, see if that comes up with anything differently. I could type in strengths and see what that pulls up, right? So for you guys, as you're in the theories class or the multicultural class, you can type in, a bunch of different stuff and see what is pulled or what comes up. How I usually start my search is I will go to Google Scholar. So I'll go to Google Scholar and I'll type in, whatever term I'm looking for. And based on this, again, there's a custom range over here on the left. And then based on kind of what's popping up, if it's in the time frame, like 1999, this is pretty old, right? That's 20 years old, over 20 years old. So if you type in something like psychoanalysis, right, you're going to pull up a bunch of stuff from like the 60s, the 80s. So it makes more sense to just go over here to the left and type in, so that you're setting the age range of the year range. That way you're not getting stuff from like the 80s, because that's probably not going to be helpful for the research that I'm asking you to do, at least for my class. And then we can go from there. So looking at, okay, international coaching psychology. This is a book. I'm probably not going to click on that. So here's a bunch of different options to be able to pull up, all right, what research can I use for this class? So If we click here, PsycNet is probably pretty good. American Psychological Association, okay, Consulting Psychology Journal is a pretty good journal. And so, you know, the same things. Now, every research article isn't going to be a methodology, right? Some of them are more like, I'm going to compare this theory, or I'm going to apply this theory to this specific population or to this specific, right? I'm going to apply existential theory to the COVID-19 and see how it applies and make my point that I think it's very applicable, right? Or any other theory that I might be interested in applying. So there's different ways that research pops up, or research articles can appear. It's not always going to be, you know, that gold standard randomized control trial type thing. And yet, even if it's theory, that's still, you know, a useful research article to read over and apply to the presentation or paper or whatever you're applying it to. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully this makes sense and will likely be beneficial, especially for you guys who are planning on going on to master's or doctorate programs, because you are going to spend so much time reading research articles, skimming research articles, because there's a lot of reading those in graduate school. All right, awesome. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Thank you so much for your time.